At the graduation celebration, my childhood friend and I received our acceptance letters from Tsinghua and Peking University. Everyone was happy. But he slammed his chopsticks down in frustration. Hayes didn't even get into a second-tier university. Leela, how can you smile after that? Don't you think, as a fellow girl, you should have helped her work harder? He snatched the acceptance letter from my hands and tore it to shreds. Here's the deal, you'll accompany Hazel for a year of retakes. And when she gets into Tsinghua or Peking University, I'll forgive you. I held back the words I wanted to shout. Idiot. Why should I care if he wants to be Hazel's lapdog? Doesn't he know that an acceptance letter can be reissued? The one he tore up was his own letter. Seeing the shredded acceptance letter and its envelope in pieces, I quickly grabbed the other envelope from the table in front of him. I clutched it tightly against my chest. Chase didn't expect this sudden move and instinctively panicked. He reached out, trying to stop me, his voice full of suspicion. Leela, what are you doing? I put on my best dramatic performance, eyes welling up with tears in an instant. What am I doing? Of course, I'm protecting your acceptance letter. Chase, heading fulfilled my obsession. I know you're upset that Hazel didn't get into college. But you can't joke with your future. It doesn't matter if you tear up my letter, I'll retake the exam. But I can't let your future be delayed. Chase's eyes widened, seemingly stunned that I would care so much about his future, even when I couldn't get into university myself. But soon, he seemed to calm down. A smirk crept onto his face. Of course. This was normal. After all, I, the daughter of an Annie, had always been his lapdog, hadn't I? A lapdog indeed. The most dignity-lacking thing. And here I was, actively making excuses for him. Chase looked at me with a mix of disdain and, unexpectedly, having fulfilled my obsession, satisfaction in his gaze. Fine. I'll go with you. Honestly, even if I retake the exam, getting into Tsinghua or Peking University would be a breeze. It's just that Hazel would be upset and wouldn't agree to it. He condescended to comfort me. Of course. You're doing all this because you care about me. So you can feel at ease. How can you say that? But my mom was furious. She'd always been submissive when dealing with Chase's family. But when it came to my future, she exploded, nearly in tears. That's my daughter's future. How can you ruin it? Mom. I pressed her down, reassuring her as I patted her hand. I'm willing. I was more than willing. I touched the acceptance letter in my arms. After all, it was Chase's letter he tore up, not mine. The envelopes for both letters were the same, with the recipient's name written in tiny letters. Chase's mother flaunted the two together. TSK. Our family is truly remarkable. Even the nanny's daughter gets into Tsinghua and Peking University. You're all so lucky to have us. In a hurry, I grabbed my own letter, only to realize I had taken the wrong one. On it was Chase's name. Before I could return it, Chase snatched it from me and tore it up. I could only say it was fate. As Chase reached for the letter, I quickly hid it behind my back, looking at him nervously. No, I don't believe it. I'm afraid you're just comforting me with words. Planning to retake the exam with her. Chase. I love you. I won't let your future suffer in any way. Let me temporarily hold on to this letter for you. I'll return it to you the day before school starts. Seeing how eagerly I left him, without any shred of dignity, Chase's vanity was fully satisfied. He overpowered his parents' objections. All right. Take it then this way. Hazel won't see it when she comes to my room. She'll be heartbroken. I quickly pulled my mom along. Okay, Mom. Let's buy some fish for Chase. He's going to feel greasy after lunch. So we need to make fish soup to help with that. We hurried out the door, ignoring the relatives in the dining hall who were laughing at us along with Chase's family. Huh. Where did you hire this maid from? She's basically a palace maid. Look at her. Working so hard, will she become your son's concubine? I say, women don't need education. It's all about serving the men. Look at her. At such a young age. Throwing herself at him. Come on. Let's drink. To Chase's beautiful wife and concubine. After we left the restaurant, my mom pulled her hand away from mine. lightly pushing me in frustration. You little rascal. Come on. Tell me what you're scheming now. As expected, my mom knew me so well. With just one look, she knew I had something up my sleeve. I grinned and pulled the acceptance letter from the envelope. It clearly had my name on it. My mom gasped, "Ah." Her eyes quickly turned red. She trembled as she held the letter. Her voice a mixture of excitement and fear. This is real. I'm not dreaming. Am I? This is great. This is great. My daughter's hard work hasn't been in vain. My daughter is so smart. I watched her cry tears of joy. And my nose grew tight with emotion. I didn't have a dad. It had always just been my mom and me. She was so brave. In order to give me a better education and a broader future, she had left our village and worked countless jobs to earn money. She had no work experience. So she started as a maid, enduring all kinds of disrespect. Eventually, having fulfilled my sigh, she ended up in the Chase family. To maintain their appearance of high status, they didn't even give my mom a proper maid's room. For over half a year, she had to sleep in a storage room, sharing space with a bunch of moldy mops and drags. Fortunately, unfortunately, the Chase family paid her a decent salary. So from a very young age, I started trying to please the Chase family, hoping that they would give my mom a proper room to live in. It didn't need to be big, just something like my student dormitory room. After enduring all that, I finally got into university. We didn't have to endure it anymore. Mom, your daughter has made it. I wiped away my tears and held her hand. The government gives bonuses. The school offers financial aid. This summer, I'll tutor some students preparing for their senior year. The money I make will be enough for us to settle down in Beijing. Beijing is a big city, with so many job opportunities. Mom, let's move to Beijing. Seeing the hope in my eyes, my mom also began to feel hopeful. She grasped my hand firmly. Yes. To avoid alarming anyone, we continued with our usual roles, playing the dutiful maid and devoted servant for the Chase family. After all, I never expected the Chases, a family of nouveau rich, to be so ignorant. It was bad enough that Chase was arrogant, but his parents, well, they spent every day indulging in food, drink, met on a low side, and socializing, believing that as long as they hired the right teachers and professional institutions for the college entrance exam, everything would be fine. They all thought that once the admission letter was torn up, that would be the end of it. Not even realizing that the letter could be reissued. I really wanted to see Chase's face when, on the registration day, he found out that it was his own admission letter he had torn up. As soon as Chase returned home, he couldn't wait to call Hazel. Hazel, don't worry. Even if I go to King Bi, I won't date anyone. It's only a year. I can wait. Hazel's voice was shaky, a forced stubbornness stinging her words. Chase, don't call me again. You're a university student now. I'm not good enough for you. Tell Leela she won. I'm backing off. You should treat her well. It's not easy for someone to work this hard to get close to you. Hazel, don't think too much. Leela is just the daughter of our maid. How could she be worthy of me? Chase's heart ached, and he hurried to assure her. I'm telling you now, I've torn up Leela's admission letter. She won't be going to King Bi. For the next year, she'll have to stay at No. 1 high school and study with you. With her by your side, you'll definitely get in. Hazel paused, a barely concealed glee in her voice. Really? But then she adopted a lecturing tone. How could you do this? Even if it's for me. But it will make Leela feel bad. It makes me look like a scheming bitch. She tentatively asked. She must be so sad and desperate now. Right? It was her choice. Chase didn't catch the malicious joy in her words. Proudly continuing. You know her. She's been licking up to me like a dog. When she saw I was upset, she eagerly agreed. Hazel wasn't appeased. She scolded. You know she only agreed because of you. She doesn't really want to help me. How could she possibly teach seriously? I know I'm not good at studying. I don't deserve to be taught by a university genius. Never mind. Don't make things difficult for her. When she said this, even Chase, as slow as he was, realized. Hazel. Are you mad at her? Don't be angry. I'll get Leela to apologize to you. Okay? Hazel didn't respond and hung up. Chase exploded, grabbing me with fury. Look at the mess you've caused. I've never seen Hazel this upset. You have to apologize to her in person today. I didn't resist and obediently followed Chase to Hazel's house. Maybe in Chase's arrogant, spoiled worldview, and in Hazel's stubborn, scheming one, apologizing was the greatest insult. But for me, apologizing was just a means. Revenge was the goal. No one could act more wronged, more betrayed, or be more pitiful than me when it came to playing the victim. Hazel wore a snow-white spaghetti-strap dress. At Chase's repeated pleas, she gracefully descended the stairs. As soon as she saw me behind Chase, she crossed her arms and looked at me as if she knew everything. You don't have to apologize if you don't want to. You just want to play the good girl in front of Chase. Don't you? We're both girls. Who can't see through this? A calculated apology like that. I can't bear it. How shameless. She wasn't even that familiar with me. Yet she was always shouting at Chase to be my best friend. Now she was trying to shift the blame for her failure to get into university entirely onto me. Of course. I'll forgive you. After all, my life is already ruined. What's the use of arguing with you? Chase hurried over to wipe her tears away. Hazel. Don't think that way. This is all Leela's fault. She should apologize. You don't need to worry about her staying behind to study with you. I told you. She can't go to university unless you do. Otherwise. He glanced at me, his gaze now filled with a hint of threat. Leela. You and your mother are living off my family. Know your place. What a pair of lunatics. To deal with lunatics, you have to be even crazier. Tears immediately sprang to my eyes, and I looked at Chase with a broken, tragic expression. My voice cracked as I spoke. All right. All right. You want me to apologize? I'll apologize. But, you should apologize to Hazel too. What are you talking about? I don't need to. Chase snapped. Because you're a scumbag who plays around with women. You get bored of one and then chase after another. You try to make two girls fall in love with you. That's how this mess started. I screamed, cutting him off. Then I burst into tears. I didn't tutor Hazel. So what? Am I not allowed to be jealous? I'm jealous she has you liking her. You used to be good to me, and told everyone I was your first love. Now you trample on me. You insult me. Even though my heart tells me you're a scum. A fool, having fulfilled an animal who deserves to be castrated. I still, without reason, love you. In all the years Chase had known me, my impression was always that of a weak, smiling girl. Always good to him. Always enduring. The times I'd been emotionally agitated had only happened twice. The first time was at the school entrance banquet when I stopped him from tearing up my admission letter. The second time was now. The first time was just a big wave. This time, it was a tsunami. It was enough to shake someone like Chase, who had never seen anyone go mad before. But this was far from over. No, you what? Chase was stunned by my sudden outburst of passionate confession. He didn't even notice that. Except for the part where I said I love you. All my words were insults directed at him. Before he could react, I started pulling at my hair, as if itching all over but refusing to take a bath, determined to get angry at him. Losing myself. Not knowing what was going on in the world. Oh woo. I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say it. I just wanted to be good to you secretly. Be a quiet admirer. But you forced me. Damn bastard. You don't like me. But you're forcing me. Is this bullying an honest person? I'm telling you. Even honest people will be disappointed. I stared at him. Dead inside. I've gathered up enough disappointment. And I'm going to leave you. Then, slowly, with a strange, almost unrecognizable gait, I walked toward Hazel, who had already quietly started to hide behind Chase. You think you're miserable? Do you know what you've lost? You've only lost your future. But I've lost my dignity. Not to mention, I've had to give up my love to make way for you too. Alright. Hazel. You win. Chase is yours. Because, I said, every word deliberate. I don't want him anymore. Then, without covering my face, I turned and ran. I was afraid that if I ran too slowly, I wouldn't be able to hold in my laughter. Leela, wait. But Chase was behind me, frantically grabbing my arm. From the sound of his voice, it was clear he hadn't recovered from the shock of my breakdown. He was just instinctively trying to calm me down. I didn't realize you were suffering this much. I didn't mean to hurt you. Here's the deal. If you help Hazel retake the exams, I'll try to be better to you. No need. I forcefully shook off his hand. Turning around, eyes bloodshot, I shot him a look filled with cold hatred. Don't worry. I'll keep my promise. Starting tomorrow, I'll go to Hazel's house to tutor her. And I'll help her get into Tsinghua or Peking University. Will that satisfy you? Now leave me alone. With a swift motion, I ran off, letting out a cry that was more painful than laughter. Woo 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 ha 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 ha. Around the corner, I quickly pulled out my phone and snapped a selfie with my tear-streaked face. Sunlight, a gentle breeze, the girl's crystalline tears, and flushed cheeks. It was broken to broken. Enough to be used as an online picture. Don't say I didn't look a bit graceful when I cried. Then, let out a low sigh. I took a cab and sat there, editing my WeChat moments post. It should have been the most perfect summer of my life. But I lost my future, lost the one I loved. I realized, growing up isn't happy at all. I'm just a useless waste of space. After finishing, I sent it out with a satisfied smile. After a nap in the car, I got out to find a dozen messages already waiting for me. Among them were messages from Chase's friends. What happened? Did Chase bully you? Tell me. I'll stand up for you. Don't be sad. College girl, let's go grab a drink. Don't worry. I'll beat Chase up for you. There were some perks to playing the obedient role in front of everyone. For example, Chase's friends were quite fond of me. The silent and devoted lapdog. These arrogant fools, living in their delusions, dreamed of having a girl like me, decent looking. Someone who would dote on them. Just like Chase. But Hazel? She was the kind of girl they hated the most. Because she was proud. Incompetent and arrogant men often slander women who hold themselves to high standards. So, they despised Hazel. And loved to talk badly about her in front of Chase. This was despicable. But for me, it was useful. I picked the comment from the guy who called me college girl and replied. The acceptance letter is gone now, bitter bitter bitter. Don't call me a college student anymore, forced smile. Then, let out a low sigh. I quickly exited the app. No matter how many messages they sent, I wouldn't reply. Sure enough, after I left, Chase stood frozen, still trying to process what just happened. Remembering my desperate, panicked back, he was shaken for the first time. What did it mean to give up and not want him anymore? Was it really just because he made me apologize to Hazel that I would throw away over 10 years of relationship with him so easily? Chase's heart started to waver. Could it really be true? Was this all just a result of the exam pressure? She was probably just angry and said things in the heat of the moment. And his phone pinged. It was a group chat with him and his buddies. They were all tagging him frantically. What the hell did you do to make Leela this mad? She was crying like that. And you still let her go? What do you mean? The acceptance letter is gone? That's the Tsinghua Peking University acceptance letter. You're joking, right? You're a future student there. You know how hard it is to get in. Don't take this too far. Huh. Is it because of Hazel again? Seriously. Can't you see that Hazel has been treating Leela badly? You've been warned. Don't regret it. Reading their comments, Chase felt even more uneasy. It was true he was able to get into Tsinghua and Peking University because his family spent a fortune on private tutors, guiding him step by step. He couldn't slack off for even a second, or else how would he have missed Hazel's poor performance? Could it be that he had gone too far with Leela? You really can't bear to let her go. So go after her already. Hazel suddenly said coolly from behind. Otherwise, it would truly be a waste of her clever tactics. Chase turned to look at Hazel's calm but proud face. In the past, he had always thought she was a special kind of beauty. different from Leela's submissiveness. He had always believed that a woman who valued her self-respect like Hazel was the kind of woman a man should pursue. But now, for the first time, he felt that Hazel was a little bit harsh. He simply nodded. "You rest well. I'll go check on her." He turned to leave. But Hazel suddenly hugged him from behind. Her tears soaked his t-shirt. Her voice filled with sadness. "I'm sorry, Chase, I shouldn't have been harsh with you. But I've been feeling so bad." Hazel's voice was weak, as if her heart and shell had been broken. She was like a wounded hedgehog, exposing her soft belly. "I'm just a little unwilling. I worked so hard to study. Just to be able to go to the same university as you. Leela is so smart. She only needs to answer my questions. Why doesn't she want to?" Her vulnerability made Chase's heart soften a little. Hazel wanted to be with him. She wasn't doing this on purpose. He could only blame himself for being so charming, causing two girls to fall for him. "Well, it's fine." Leela had always been obedient. A few words of comfort would be enough. Chase came to find me at home, but it was my mom who answered the door. "Master Chase, did you make Leela cry?" My mom looked both worried and shocked. As soon as she came back, she collapsed on her bed and cried. No matter how I asked, she wouldn't answer. She suddenly ran out. "I thought she went to find you. But you didn't have her, right?" "What?" Chase was stunned. My mom clapped her hands. "Oh my. What did you do to her? You know she's always liked you, don't you? She even gave up going to university for you. What are we going to do now?" Her eyes were red. "She's not doing something foolish, is she?" Chase's head buzzed. He remembered my red eyes from crying and started to feel anxious. Without saying a word, he called me while rushing out to search for me. Meanwhile, I was at a nearby CAF, drinking coffee and tutoring a handsome sophomore. I had already turned off my phone and placed it on the table. My student was a rich second generation, and he was quite satisfied with my approach to solving problems. After 2 hours of tutoring, I collected my handsome fee. Only then did I slowly head home. Chase was sitting in the living room, looking helpless, while my mom was crying with her hands covering her face. We mother and daughter are alike in one thing: we know how to act to survive. When Chase saw me, he stood up in a rush, immediately starting to scold me as usual. "Where have you been? How dare you make me wait this long? Are you crazy?" I kept a cold expression, polite but distant. "Where I went seems none of your business. Right? Didn't I make myself clear? I've decided not to like you anymore." Chase was choked by my cold demeanor. He gritted his teeth and forcibly suppressed his anger. "Why are you still mad? Didn't I let you off the hook and not make you apologize? I haven't even blamed you for making me embarrass myself in front of Hazel. And yet you're acting so delicate." He grabbed a box from the table, forcing a smile that said, "I'm going to spoil you just this once. Here. I bought this specially for you. Hazel didn't even get this treatment today. Eat it and don't get mad anymore." I glanced at the cake box, offering a faint, sad smile. Even though it wasn't bought for Hazel, it's her favorite brand. "Chase, you don't even know what I like to eat. And I can remember exactly what badge you pin on your school uniform collar every day." Looking back, I really am pathetic. Always coveting people I never meant to have. Chase's face flushed red, unsure whether to put the cake down or not. After a long pause, he finally managed to say, "Got it. I'll buy what you like next time." "Late affection is worse than dirt," I said with a direct line prediction. "The cake and you. I don't want either." "You stand right there." Chase got angry. "There's a limit to how spoiled you can be. I've been nice to you. And you still want more? Don't forget, I'm the young master of the Chase family. And you're throwing tantrums at me. Have you thought about the consequences? So you're going to kick me out now, right?" I immediately entered character. My eyes filled with fake tears as I looked at him. "All right. Then go ahead and kick us out. I never want to sell my dignity again because of this crazy love for you." With that, I ran back to my room, slamming the door behind me. My mom, adding fuel to the fire, shouted from outside, Alright. I'll go too. Chase. When the master and madam get back, tell them since you and your family are so disgusted by us, we'll just leave and not get in your way anymore. She put down the rag in her hand and loudly called out, Leela, grab the suitcase. Pack your things. We're leaving. Wait. Sigh. You let out a low sigh. Seeing my mom didn't seem to be pretending, Chase immediately panicked. He fumbled for a while, then threw the cake on the table. Fine, heading so still and so. Fine. If I'm afraid of you too. Is that what you want to hear? Alright. Okay. Then, let out a low sigh. With a loud bang, he stormed off to his room. As for me, I was already enjoying myself, wearing my headphones and starting a video conference. Hello, everyone. Today is our first class. I'm going to give you a test to gauge everyone's level. That's right. I had already negotiated a price with the tutoring agency using my admission letter. Every Sunday night, I would teach online classes to their repeat students. Another nice sum of money to add to my account. 3 hours later, based on my experience, Chase's anger had subsided. I grabbed the study materials and knocked on his door. When Chase saw me, he was shocked, mixed with a hint of hesitation, not knowing whether to be angry at me. What do you want? I tossed the materials at him. Tomorrow, you're tutoring Hazel. You and I will pick the content and come up with the questions, so she won't think I'm bullying her later. Seriously? He gave me a mocking look. Hazel wouldn't be so petty. Don't project your dark thoughts onto her. I sneered. Oh, really? Care to bet? Tomorrow. Don't tell Hazel you came up with the questions, and let's see if she'll accuse me of purposely making things hard for her. How about betting your pocket money for the month? Chase raised an eyebrow. What if you lose? I crossed my arms. Chase, don't go too far. I've given up going to university for you and I'm tutoring my former rival. There's no one in this world more miserable than me. What could happen if I lose? Do you want me to die? Chase was momentarily rendered speechless. He scratched his head in frustration. Fine. You win. It's your way. Alright? You're definitely going to lose. I sat beside him, watching as he racked his brain to come up with the most basic questions for Hazel. Inside, I couldn't stop laughing. This was good, getting familiar with the process. After all, the one who would be tutoring Hazel next year was him, not me. The next day, for the tutoring session, Hazel had styled her hair into a high ponytail and wore the red cherry hairpin that had made Chase fall for her at first sight. Her room was meticulously organized, neat yet filled with youthful charm. However, the faint smell of steamed buns from her parents' shop downstairs occasionally wafted through the window cracks. Hazel pulled the curtains in disgust. The three of us sat in the dim, cramped room, which felt a little too tight. But for the bashful, romantic youth of adolescence, the distance felt just right. Hazel, in an attempt to stay close to me, almost nestled herself into Chase's arms. The sweet fragrance of her perfume filled the air, teasing Chase and making his thoughts wander. Chase's hand began to wander as well, unsure whether he'd accidentally touched some part of Hazel, causing her to burst out laughing. I pretended not to see, finishing my lesson with self-assurances. Then I asked her, "Did you understand? If you did, start with the exercises." "Stop it." Hazel lightly swatted Chase's hand away, then turned to me with an innocent look. What? You're going too fast. Please. I'm not a genius. If you're teaching me like you would a top student, of course I won't understand. Leela, you're not trying to make things hard for me, are you? I shot her a glance. This is the most basic knowledge for first-year high school, and I'm teaching at half the speed of a real teacher. If you can't understand this, maybe you should go back to square one? Hazel bit her lip and glared at me before turning to Chase to act coquetteous lie. I told you. She won't tutor me seriously. All I'm learning is how to be humiliated. I guess I should just study on my own and accept whatever results come. Then she lightly pushed Chase. And you? Don't come back here again. It'll just waste my time and get me into trouble. Chase, who had just gotten something from her, now felt a bit guilty. He backed her up, all right. She just lost focus. Stop holding it against her. Hazel's foundation is weak. Just explain it to her again. Explain again? Don't I have time too? I snapped. Oh, sorry. I forgot your time is precious as a King BI student. Hazel said with a sly smile. But what about you? You won't be able to attend King BI next year and will just be stuck with me. The idiot. Repeating the year. You poor thing. I shrugged. Indifferent. It's fine. I'll still go to King BI next year. I just don't know if you keep up at this pace. Chase might have to wait until the tombstone for you. Slap. Hazel angrily slammed her pen onto the table. All right. Leela. Don't be too harsh. Chase frowned. Try explaining it again. This time I'll watch her. And I'm sure she'll get it. Hazel's smart. With Chase backing her up, Hazel raised an eyebrow at me. But she needs to explain properly. Though. I just smiled and said nothing. No more words. Just started explaining again. But after 3 years of high school, it wasn't easy to fix the habit of zoning out in class. Especially when Hazel had a score of 288 on the college entrance exam. Those 3 years of not studying were a secret only she knew. At first, she could pretend to be focused. But by the third basic question, her enthusiasm had already waned. Her attention scattered. How's my explanation this time? I asked Chase directly. Chase had listened to lessons from top-tier tutors. So he knew I was doing quite well. He nodded in agreement. Not bad. I turned to Hazel. So, hadn't I say. Did you get it this time? Huh? Hazel seemed to snap out of her daze. But, with Chase watching her every move, she could only weakly respond. Yeah. I guess. Good. I took out the test paper. Then do these problems and let me see how well you've understood. Hazel, unable to back out in front of Chase, could only reluctantly take the paper. It's easy. Chase, having fulfilled my obsession. That naive fool. Continued encouraging her. Then, after Hazel made a mark on the second multiple-choice question with a C, Chase furrowed his brows. Hazel. Look. The range for set A is greater than 2 and less than 3. And set B x1. Doesn't this mean that x should be greater than 1? So the answer should be. Hazel hesitated. And under his prompting, changed her answer to A. The third question. Hazel. The denominator can't be 0. The fourth one. Take a closer look. Is this function decreasing? Hazel's face grew redder. Chase's tone grew louder. Finally, heading to fell sigh. Hazel snapped, slamming the test paper shut. Leela. You're doing this on purpose. Aren't you? You could have just said you wanted me to embarrass myself. You didn't have to deliberately pick these questions I'm bad at to humiliate me. With these kinds of questions, your family must have hired a genius. Right? She then looked at Chase with a pitiful expression. Chase, having fulfilled my obsession. I'm not doing this anymore. She's clearly not letting me get off easy. Chase's face turned pitch black. These questions were ones he had painstakingly selected the day before, spending 3 hours picking the safest ones for her. I hadn't contributed at all. So, I couldn't help but gleefully knock on the table. Indeed. It takes a lot of time to pick such terrible questions. Your family should definitely hire an expert. Chase was gritting his teeth in frustration. But Hazel, surprisingly, remained clueless. As long as you know your limits. Chase suddenly stood up. Hazel jumped, thinking he was about to get angry at me. She quickly stood up, trying to block him with a fake smile. Forget it. Chase. We already knew she was like this. It's fine. I'll just study harder and tackle these questions on my own. She shook his hand. Help me. I only trust you. Trapped between a rock and a hard place. Unable to bear the pressure. Yet also unable to turn her back on him. Chase silently pulled his hand away. His voice low and stern. I'll circle the key points for you. You need to study them seriously tonight. And tomorrow, I'll personally tutor you and do a pop quiz. His tone was so harsh. It sent a shiver down Hazel's spine. She suddenly didn't dare to act spoiled anymore. She merely nodded awkwardly. Oh. After leaving Hazel's house, I pulled out my phone and showed Chase the Ollie pick QR code. "I bet is a bet." Chase, ice, with a stern face, transferred a month's worth of living expenses to me. Almost 6 figures. Good. It was enough for my mom to rent a small apartment next to the school for half a year, covering both rent and living expenses. Starting tomorrow, I'd have more time to focus on preparing for my own tutoring part-time job. After all, since Chase was handling the Hazel tutoring, they'd probably be tangled up for a while. Once a crack appears, things fall apart quickly. It only takes one more push. They once tried to ruin what I wanted, so neither of them will get a happy ending. Chase was even more impatient than I thought. Less than 3 days in, he was already driven mad by Hazel. I've explained this problem so many times. Worked isn't a transitive adverb. It doesn't need an object. Do you understand? He could no longer control his anger, shouting at Hazel. Hazel's face alternated between white and red, angry and aggrieved. But because she had to calm Chase down, she could only force herself to suppress her emotions. I get it. Don't be angry. She had originally planned to use her charm and childish behavior to get away with it. But for some reason, Chase, who was tutoring her, was being so serious. He didn't give her a chance to breathe. Her usual tricks were failing her now. I sat by, sipping juice and sneering. Of course, the dumb beauty persona is one that's only charming from a distance. When it's on you, it's bound to make people tired of it. Maybe because I looked so carefree while doing nothing. Chase finally decided to pass the mess back to me. He stood up. "I'm going out for a breather. Leela, you continue tutoring her." With that, he stormed out without looking back. Of course, I was too lazy to continue. Hazel wouldn't learn anyway, even if I pretended to tutor her. What's the point? What could it change? What are you so proud of? Hazel still had that proud attitude when facing me. Even if Chase is mad at me right now, he's still ordering you to tutor me. Don't you think it's really pathetic? Being a backup plan with no dignity? I smiled and replied. Hazel, is your mindset as small as your nose? Chase is pursuing you openly, yet he dares to keep a backup plan under your nose. What will happen when he's in college? Will he keep a backup plan in every school? Oh, and you might just end up being one of his backups. Watching her face turn red with anger, I leaned in close to her. You see, with your IQ, no matter how much you study, you'll never get into Tsinghua or Peking University. What's there to guarantee between you and Chase? I smiled broadly. I'm different. I'll be the one he's after next year. Chase is a man. And once he's fully grown, how long do you think he'll remain faithful? When the time comes, I'll catch him at the right moment and give him a kiss. I pursed my lips. He'll forget all about you. Oh, by the way, I pretended to remember. You didn't know, did you? Chase is actually afraid you'll fail the exams and beg him to help you with a retake. He even made me keep your acceptance letter for him. Hazel was completely broken. Slut. You dirty slut. She screeched, her voice shrill. Grabbing the papers and pencil case from the desk, she began hurling them at me furiously, her demeanor resembling that of a street thug. Say another word and I'll make you regret it. What kind of person do you think you are? Trying to seduce Chase? You think just because I'm going to college you're untouchable? Huh? Let me tell you. You've messed with the wrong person. Come on. Let's go down in flames together. Shall we? Nobody gets to leave. You think I'm some fragile flower? You provoke me. You better be ready to face the consequences. The loud noise caught the attention of Chase, who had been smoking outside the door. He stormed in. What's going on in here? I seized the opportunity to slip behind him, pretending to seek protection. What else is there to do? She's lost her mind because she can't learn. Chase. My life matters too. She likes you, so she can't bring herself to blame you. So she's taking it out on me. Look. I raised my wrist, which was scratched by a book sage. If she had scissors, my hand would be ruined. How could I ever go to college after this? I cried, my voice trembling. What did I ever do wrong to deserve this? Is it just because I once liked you? You really want me to be crippled for life by the girl you like? I didn't. Chase was stunned by the weight of the accusation. He grabbed Hazel, who was about to rush at me and tear me apart again. Enough. What are you making such a fuss for? You're yelling at me? Hazel stared at him in disbelief, her face breaking down. I didn't ask you to make her tutor me. You two pushed for this. Now, you can't even teach me properly. And you're blaming me? Chase. If you don't like me anymore, just say it. No need to drop hints and make me feel bad. I can't stand your disgust. Chase was shocked. He looked at Hazel. Her hair messy. Her demeanor completely different from the graceful, untouchable beauty she once was. She was now acting irrational, unreasonable, and selfish, making him start to feel repulsed. You're too emotional right now. Calm down. And let's talk later, he said, trying to distance himself from the situation. He turned to leave, grabbing my arm to pull me away. I yanked my hand back. I'll walk by myself. God. This is so dirty. Chase got home and laid on the couch, holding his head in frustration, staying there late into the night. Meanwhile, I was in my room, taking a picture of Chase's admission letter envelope and sending it to Hazel. Yes, Chase's admission letter. I had someone replicate it for me, using the same size and materials as mine, from the cover to the interior. It looked pristine and professional from the outside, but those in the know could easily tell the difference by touch. Hazel's phone showed typing for a long time, but there was no response. After a while, Chase's ringtone went off from the living room below. Apparently, despite being foolish, Hazel still had enough self-awareness. As a person from an ordinary family, soon to be unemployed with no college prospects, she couldn't bear to let go of Chase, the golden boy. But sadly, Chase was now in the process of disillusionment. After hearing his ringtone several times, he just muted his phone. This wouldn't do. If they didn't reconcile, how would I carry out my next plan? So I went downstairs. Isn't it the worst when Hazel cries? Why is it okay for you to make her cry but not me? Oh, so double standards. Huh? I mocked him with a sardonic tone. Chase gave me a defeated, awkward look before sitting up, his expression shifting to that of a lovesick CEO pretending to have to humble himself. Fine. Fine. I admit it. I've spoiled Hazel too much this time, which is why she's acting like this with me. She has been too much, he added, leaning back on the couch and narrowing his eyes. But you have to understand my position. I'm caught in the middle here. I don't want to disappoint either of you. Seeing I wasn't moved, he clearly felt the urge to conquer me again. He switched to his suave, persuasive tone. Leela, honestly, I trust you more than Hazel. That's why I'll let you help her with her repeat year. Because I know only you will be endlessly forgiving of me. No matter what I do, you'll stick by me. He reached out, intending to pull me close, eager to regain some of the face he'd lost with Hazel. Don't worry. I know who's been the best to me all along. It's just 1 year. After that, you can come find me at King Bi. And I'll treat you right. Finally, I had found the perfect opportunity. I swung my arm back. Bam! I gave him a massive shock. What level of scum are you? Can't even shake me off? I rubbed my wrist, which had been overstrained, and took advantage of his shock to let loose. Do you really think just because Hazel, that greedy pig, is interested in you, you can sell yourself like a 88-cent corn tart? Do you not know your worth? You're just a pile of chaff. Being an idiot at your age is one thing, but are your ears messed up too? I'm so tired of saying I don't like you. If you still don't understand, I'll just spell it out for you, idiot. Got it? Idiot? Chase covered his face, his expression going from stunned to shocked, then to furious. Leela, have you lost your mind? You dare hit me? He raised his hand to strike back. My mom, holding the mop, charged in and gave him a solid shove with the strength of 15 years of cleaning. Chase collapsed back onto the couch. He was about to lose it, yelling at my mom. You wanna die? Do you know who I am? Who's paying your salary to make you hit me? You know what's going to happen when my parents get back. I'm done here. My mom replied succinctly. You hit my daughter. And no matter who comes back, no matter if it's your parents or the king himself, I'll still hit you. With that, she grabbed the mop again and started hammering Chase. Chase, the pretentious high schooler who cared so much about his face, couldn't handle such a sudden assault. He ran around the room, desperately trying to escape. He wished his family was richer and had bodyguards to call for help. Instead, he had to call his parents. But it was a drinking banquet hour, and his parents were probably passed out at some relative's business investment table, completely ignoring him. Eventually, Chase was pushed to the door, his eyes bloodshot, glaring at me. Leela, you really want to take this all the way? You've made up your mind? The title of being Chase's girlfriend is up for grabs. And there are plenty of people who would beg for it. Are you really this stupid? Stupid? I smiled. He wouldn't understand until the day school started who the real fool was. So I gave him just one word. Get lost. Chase went to find Hazel. After all the humiliation I caused, he would probably think that Hazel was gentle and understanding. And that's exactly the illusion I wanted him to have. My mom and I packed our few belongings overnight. After sending a resignation text to Chase's parents, we waited for the final showdown. By 9 p.m., Chase returned with Hazel. Hazel was clinging to his arm, looking shy, while Chase appeared confident and re-energized. It seemed that, for one night, they had comforted each other well. Leela, you and your mom are fired. You have 30 minutes to get out of my house. Chase, holding Hazel, looked down at me. I told you. You'd regret this. Once you step out that door. Go ahead and try your luck. See which family in this neighborhood would still want to take into parasites like you. No family would take us. Because we're heading to Beijing. I felt great. Not bothering to listen to his barking. With my mom, I grabbed our luggage and started walking out. Chase, seeing how decisively we were leaving, looked stunned. Leela, are you sure? Are you really leaving? Let her go. Hazel said knowingly. Chase, Leela's just teasing you. Acting all cold and aloof. Waiting for you to beg her to stay. I bet her suitcase is empty. Chase, clearly reassured by Hazel's words, raised an eyebrow and sneered. Huh, beg her to stay? She really doesn't know her place. No matter how much she plays hard to get. She's just the daughter of a servant. What makes her think I'd beg her? I walked even faster, fearing I might catch a case of his hysteria. Stop. Hazel's voice rang out urgently. Since you're leaving, you should return Chase's acceptance letter. She reached out to me. So you don't ruin your own wishes. I'm afraid you'll tear it up out of anger. I finally sighed with relief. She was finally getting to the point. I turned around, pretending to be furious and indignant, and looked at Chase. Are you sure you want to give it to her? Aren't you afraid that she won't get into college and rip it up in front of you? Chase sneered coldly, clearly confident. Hazel's not like you. She's willing to give me everything. Unlike you, who just clings to me and sucks me dry. He finished with a soft glance at Hazel. Hazel bashfully punched him on the arm. I understood now. I knew what she had given him last night. This closeness is exactly what I wanted. I humiliated myself by pulling out the fake acceptance letter from my bag and throwing it at Chase. Here. Take it back. As it is. Seeing Hazel hurriedly pick it up with such seriousness, I sneered. Hope it's still intact when you show up at school. Hazel, who had originally wanted to open it and check what the Tingshui acceptance letter looked like, quickly stopped herself. She stuffed it into her bag. Huh. Do you think I'm like you? It will stay the same in my hands until the day I report to school. She clung to Chase's arm, looking all sweet and pious. Chase, adding fulfilled session. I'll go with you to the school and personally escort you through the gates. Good. I'm waiting for that day too. Because the seal on that envelope was glued with water-based glue. It would probably come undone in 2 days. Whoever opens it then. Well, I can't say for sure. But what does that have to do with me? I have my flight ticket for the afternoon. I had already agreed on terms with the tutoring agency in Beijing. By the second day, everything would be settled, and I could start charging for tutoring hours. Big cities have plenty of job opportunities, and my tutoring experience here made the transition smooth. My mom also found a good job. The new boss was nice, quite refined. After blocking the entire Chase family, our lives were back on track. I heard from Chase's friends again. They kept asking where I was, saying that Chase was looking for me everywhere. Leela, just let off some steam and come back. After all these years, he still has feelings for you. That Hazel's really something. She said she was going to hold on to Chase's acceptance letter, but then secretly opened the envelope and tried to glue it back. Luckily, hadn't fulfilled session. The letter inside was fine. Leela, I'm different from the others. Let me speak fairly. Don't look for Chase anymore. Hazel might be pregnant. She's been throwing up a lot, though it might not show yet. Chase isn't angry with her because of that. And if you go back, you'll just be the other woman. I didn't respond to any of them and blocked them all. Finally, having fulfilled my advice, the day of school registration arrived. I went there on time with the acceptance letter. And so did Chase, his parents, and Hazel, who acted as though she were his fiancée. Sorry, but he already has a fiancée. I know exactly what you're after. She arrogantly rejected a senior girl who tried to approach Chase. The senior girl rolled her eyes. What's wrong with you? I was just trying to remind you about the luggage carts. Fine. Carry it all yourself. Then. Typical dumb girl. Go away. I was already in the registration line. And after signing in, I didn't linger. I pulled out my phone, started recording, and stepped aside, waiting for the show to begin. What fake? Are you blind? This isn't from your school. It's from the dog. Isn't it? Sure enough. Among the orderly line, I heard Chase's furious voice. His acceptance letter couldn't fool the senior in charge of registration. But having been pampered all his life, he was used to bullying others with his family's money and couldn't tolerate being questioned. He didn't even say much before he was ready to throw a punch. Come on. Give me the other acceptance letters and I'll show you. If they're the same, I'll see you to death. If his parents had calmed down and mediated the situation, perhaps there'd still be a chance for his enrollment. But unfortunately, his parents made their fortune through lottery wins and blind investments. They didn't have any brains themselves but managed to make money through relatives who knew how to invest. They often boasted about the righteousness of the Chase family. Of course, they were just as righteous to their son. No hesitation in protecting him. My son's name isn't even on your enrollment list? Why are you talking nonsense? We came all the way here to fool you? Do you even deserve to question us? Exactly. And calling yourself a university? What kind of manners do you have? You're going to scare my son. How much do you think you owe for emotional damages? You think you can pay it? Do you even know what my family does? The couple sang in unison. They directly blocked the way. The senior in charge of registration turned pale and called in the school leaders. Eventually, having fulfilled sexually, they called the police. Under the supervision of the police, having fulfilled it was confirmed that Chase's admission letter was fake. I'm sorry, but Chase is indeed on our admissions list. However, his behavior of making mistakes and refusing to admit them does not align with our school's educational philosophy. The school official spoke sternly. We must discuss whether he can still be admitted. The reason I had done so much groundwork was that I knew King Bi University had precedent for canceling students' admission in such cases. When Chase's family heard that his admission might be cancelled, they panicked. No. Chase's mother quickly softened. It's all a misunderstanding. We didn't know the admission letter was fake. When we received it, it looked just like this. Didn't you say it was the wrong paper? You should check the printing process. Maybe you mixed something up. You brat. I told you not to lose your temper. Apologize. Chase's father was also a master at shifting blame. He gave Chase a swat on the back of the head, then smiled at the school officials. Look. We're just concerned about our son. We'll apologize. Just let us know if there's anything our school is missing. When Chase's family was escorted out by security, they were still yelling. What kind of lousy school is this? Do you really think we have to attend your place? Chase's father patted his son's shoulder. It's all right, son. If we're scums to worst, I'll pull some strings for you. We'll go study abroad. Chase, already irritated, suddenly jerked his shoulder away from his father's hand. How can I go abroad? If I do, how will Leela ever find me? You're still thinking about Leela? Hazel, who had been silently terrified all this time, finally couldn't hold it in any longer. She cried, accusing him. Is your obsession with King Bi just for Leela? She hadn't spoken of it before, but once she did, it reminded Chase of how she had once torn open the envelope. The details instantly aligned in his mind. Chase glared at her with venomous eyes. He slapped her to the ground, then began punching and kicking. Slut. I knew it was you. You swapped my admission letter. Didn't you? You want me to stay and help you repeat the year. Huh? Fuck you. That's my future. Do you understand? My future. Do you know how hard it is to get into King Bi? Slut. You think I can't make you pay for this? You've been playing me for a fool. Thinking you're a princess? Stupid bitch. All of this was secretly filmed from a distance. With a high-powered camera. I anonymously sent the footage to major marketing accounts. Taking advantage of the buzz around the start of the school year, Chase's family became infamous. The fake King Bi University admission letter, coupled with Chase beating up his girlfriend at the school gates, went viral. The enraged netizens dug into their backgrounds. Dead Bastard became Chase's permanent nickname. All the relatives that Chase's parents had struggled to win over at drinking tables quickly distanced themselves from them. The funding chain broke instantly. Forget about studying abroad, even repeating a year was no longer possible, as their house had been mortgaged and they couldn't maintain the payments. The only lucky break was that Hazel wasn't pregnant. Though she had eaten something bad. She was hospitalized for 3 months due to the beating from Chase. And aside from medical expenses, she also managed to get a breakup fee through the public uproar. However, public opinion was a double-edged sword. Soon, her comment section and private messages were flooded with people calling her a high school delinquent and creepy men asking how much to sleep with her. Hazel's pride was her downfall. She feared nothing more than being associated with those two things. But she had to rely on her account for income. As her situation worsened day by day, she started to look disheveled and unhinged. Meanwhile, during the summer of his freshman year, I brought my boyfriend to a high school reunion. We met once. It wasn't at the dinner table, though it was in the hotel corridor. He was holding a plate, serving food to other private rooms. When he saw me, he ignored the guests and rushed out. Leela, He awkwardly wiped his hands on his cargo pants. His cautious expression a far cry from his previous arrogance, he looked rather pitiful. This year. Where have you been? I've been looking for you everywhere. He sized me up, seemingly not believing that I was doing so well, yet at the same time envious of how well I had turned out. My boyfriend, standing by my side, sneered. She's studying at King Bi University, the same school that dumped you. What? How did you get into King? Chase exclaimed in shock. But when he saw the coldness in my eyes, he suddenly became fearful. Finally, he lowered his head, forcing a sheepish smile. Oh, I forgot. King Bi's admission letter can be reissued. I laughed. It turned out that when the tables are turned, and one becomes untouchable by the other, excuses are the first thing that people seek to make. From then on, I stopped following Chase and Hazel's news. My revenge was complete. And everything else was none of my business. From university to grad school, and grad school to doctoral studies, I made many high-quality boyfriends, earned a lot of money. My mom became a professional nutritionist, and no one would ever call her just a housemaid again. I was no longer just the housemaid's daughter. Our lives just kept getting better and better. When I arrived at the club, Francis was sitting in the main seat, his expression restrained and the corners of his eyes reddened. A group of rich second-generation people didn't dare to breathe loudly. When they saw me, it was like seeing a savior and quickly stood at attention. Hello. sister-in-law. When the girl sitting next to him saw me, she panicked. With red eyes, she said to him, Francis, I'm back. Are you still going home with her? I walked over and picked up the red wine bottle on the table. Francis, choose between going home or having your head split open. The box was so quiet that only the sounds of breathing could be heard one after another. Francis lifted his eyelids and looked at me. Just this one action made me clearly perceive his impatience. The second-generation people who were originally standing in a circle were afraid of being affected and silently retreated to a safe distance. I stood steadily in front of the two of them with the wine bottle in my hand, motionless. After a long while, Francis curled up the corner of his mouth. Who called your sister-in-law here? As soon as these words came out, the blood on the girl sitting next to him instantly drained from her face, and the whole person looked like she was about to break. She grabbed Francis's arm and asked him in a trembling voice, Francis, are you going home with her? I was so angry that I laughed. I pulled out a chair and sat down, looking at her at eye level. Lillian, before I can still hold back, you'd better leave on your own. A tear slid down from the corner of her eye. Since you know me, then do you know? I interrupted her. I know you aren't as white moonlight. There is still your photo in his study until now. A shy blush climbed up Lillian's face. Suddenly, there was a light in her eyes. She gently leaned her head on Francis's shoulder. Francis, I'm back. Divorce her. After so many years, marrying you is still my biggest dream. I know you are not happy. You have had a hard time these years. Although Francis tried his best to maintain his usual poker face, the bulging veins on his forehead betrayed his surging emotions. He raised his hand and wanted to gently stroke Lillian's back. I sneered and interrupted their tender moment. President Fu, it seems that you don't want to go home. Then I'm sorry. I raised my hand high. The red wine bottle in my hand was about to hit Lillian's head straight down. To bang. Along with the sound of the wine bottle bursting, there were also screams in the box. Lillian looked at Francis, who was protecting her in his arms with a pale face. Blood mixed with red wine was gushing out from his forehead. Francis, how are you? How are you? Lillian stood up from Francis's arms. Trembling, she helped Francis sit down. She hurriedly picked up the tissue on the table and desperately tried to cover the wound on Francis's forehead. The tissue was quickly soaked with blood. Lillian turned around and roared at me like crazy. You lunatic. Are you trying to kill someone? How could Francis marry you? This lunatic. Francis calmed down for a while. He picked up the tissue himself, wiped the blood and wine that had seeped into his eyes, and held Lillian. Lillian, don't provoke her. Are you injured anywhere? Lillian pouted and stretched out her hand. There was a wound about 1 cm long on her hand, cut by glass shards. Francis immediately stood up nervously, carefully held her hand, and took her out. Why didn't you say you were injured? Come on. I'll take you to the hospital. I lowered my head and looked at my hand that had been hanging down all along. Blood dripped down drop by drop along my fingertips and disappeared into the carpet. After being busy in the group all day, in order to receive important clients, I only had time to nibble on a few mouthfuls of bread at noon. After finally getting off work, when I saw the message sent to me by others, I rushed to the club in a hurry. Francis, I am tired, hungry, and sleepy. I am also injured. How did Francis, who scraped his hands and rescued me from the kidnappers covered in blood when I was a child, become so unfamiliar? Waves of dizziness came one after another. I felt the world spinning. Subconsciously, I grabbed the edge of the table and sat down on the chair. I heard someone shout to him, Brother, sister-in-law is also injured. She looks very bad. Francis's voice came from far away. She is so strong. She can handle it herself. I looked up at him. His leading back was so resolute. Well, in this way, when I close the net, I won't feel too guilty. 3. Looking up, these well-known playboys in the Beijing circle were standing neatly. The looks in their eyes when looking at me were full of worry. I smiled and waved, I'm hungry. Be more alert. Oh, sister, coming soon. Wesley is the prince of the club. He is the most active. He immediately arranged for people to clean up the table and serve new dishes. I watched them busy. It was just like when we were young. They still followed behind me, and Francis, and called brother and sister. Since when did brother still be brother? That sister has become sister-in-law. It started when I was kidnapped by the nanny when I was 5 years old. Francis, who is 3 years older than me, managed to find me before the police by relying on analyzing the little traces left by the nanny. When I woke up from a coma and found myself lying on Francis's thin back, he gritted his teeth and carried me on his back, staggering out of that terrifying abandoned factory. That scene was engraved in my heart forever. The elders joked that for the rest of his life, Francis will always be Shishi's preference and exception. But later Francis had his white moonlight. Different from me, who lost my mother because of that kidnapping incident when I was young. I was strictly required according to the standards of an heir. Everything I did was for the family business and revenge. She would quietly accompany him and look at him with a gentle smile. She would be willing to wash her hands and make soup for him. She would be willing to spend a lot of time accompanying him to classes that she couldn't understand at all. I can't do all these things she does for him. What my growing environment taught me is to measure the pros and cons and gains and losses. Until Lillian had conflicts with Francis because he was too rich. She said that she could never fit into his world. After turning around, she went far away to a foreign country. Francis didn't chase after her either. I knew he had great ambitions. He wanted both the Fu family and the Shang family. Before getting the Fu family and the Shang family, he wouldn't give up on me because of Lillian. So when Francis proposed to me, I agreed without hesitation. Francis gave me all the romance that money could pile up. I enjoyed it with peace of mind. I knew better than anyone that the Fu family and the Shang family would eventually be mine. All the beauty he piled up with money was just me enjoying it in advance. I lowered my head and ate. My mind quickly reviewed my plan. After planning for more than 10 years, I wouldn't allow any mistakes. Maybe I was too silent. Wesley couldn't stand at first. He slapped the table and stood up. Sister, you have never been merciful to the women around my brother. Why did you back down today? He brought up a sore subject. The table suddenly became quiet. I smiled and said, because she is Lillian. The lethality of white moonlight is fatal with one blow. I took out my phone. The screen was clean. There were no calls or messages. I thought that by now, Lillian's wound should have healed. For as I expected, Francis didn't come back all night. I waited in the living room all night and quietly watched this city from 0 o'clock to 7 o'clock. I knew that my era was coming. When the hour hand pointed to 8, I dressed neatly, covered the bluish purple under my eyes with thick foundation, and sat on the car that came to pick me up for work on time. I never expected to see Lillian in the company. She was wearing a brand new professional suit and sitting in the outer room of Francis's office. When she saw me passing by, she immediately stood up and greeted me with a smile. Yvonne. Good morning. The corners of her mouth curved up in a proud arc, paired with her non-aggressive face. It made me feel very dazzling. I darkened my face and immediately called the personnel manager over. I loudly questioned him what was going on. Could any cat or dog be stuffed into the company? Lillian was so embarrassed that she wished she could bury her face in the ground. Her face flushed red and tears welled up in her eyes. Under my aggressive questioning, she couldn't say a word. I got angry and no one dared to provoke me. After saying a few harsh words, I suddenly felt it was boring. I waved my hand and said to the personnel manager, fire her. Give Miss Ruan all the compensation she deserves. Lillian, who had been me all along, suddenly raised her head and looked at me. Tears fell like broken pearls. Yvonne, please. I really need this job. Please don't fire me. Your world is high above. I can only survive under your charity. Does Yvonne want to take away even this right of mine? Such familiar green tea words. I raised my eyes and looked over her thin shoulder at the door behind her. As I expected, the door opened and Francis appeared at the door with a cold face. Yvonne, hadn't so felt my ancestors. You are born with a good background. But this is not your capital to bully others. This is my special assistant, not yours. With just one sentence, Their relative importance is immediately clear. He stepped forward, took Lillian's hand, looked around, and said in a deep voice, "From today on, Miss Ruan is my special assistant. I am fully responsible for everything she says and does. Is this exception and preference?" I didn't speak. I took 2 steps back and turned back to my own office. When it was almost time to get off work, my assistant reminded me that I had to attend an important dinner with Francis tonight. Whether the project I have been following for half a year can be negotiated depends on tonight. Taking a deep breath and building up enough psychological strength, I changed into an evening dress, repleated my makeup, and went to find Francis. Just as I was about to knock on the door opened from the inside. Lillian was wearing an evening dress and holding Francis's hand. The two walked out chatting and laughing. I was stunned in place. It was early autumn. There was a wind blowing in from the window, blowing over my exposed shoulder. It was a bit cold. Francis stopped and looked at me inferently. "From now on, Special Assistant Ruan can accompany me to such social events. Don't trouble Yvonne." The two passed by me and walked toward the elevator. "Francis, this is a project I have been following for half a year." Francis's voice gradually faded away. "From today on, it's handed over to Special Assistant Ruan." Francis personally stepped in and signed that project for Lillian. Before the project was launched, the settlement statement for giving Lillian a commission was placed on my desk. I didn't sign it and returned the settlement statement intact, although she didn't receive the commission. It didn't prevent Lillian from becoming a celebrity in the group overnight. Her fame even spread to the partners. On this day, having fulfilled my obsession, I received a call from Director Chen, our partner. She. What have you been busy with recently? It's been a long time since you came to have tea with your Uncle Chen." I smiled. "Uncle Chen. Clearly you are the busy one. How do you have time to call me?" Director Chen pondered for a long time before saying, "Francis asked for a single-family villa from me. The owner registered as Lillian. That should have been occupied already." The teacup in my hand suddenly tilted and the tea spilled and wet the table. Counting from the first night when he didn't come home, Francis hasn't returned home for 29 consecutive days. The plan is in order. I also changed from being unable to sleep all night at the beginning to being able to fall asleep as soon as I lie down now. I am shouldering to family businesses. Love between men and women is not the main theme of my life. Wesley and those kids have looked for me many times and wanted to stand up for me. I stopped them all. Everything is under control. I don't feel any grievance. These kids don't understand. When two sides are equally matched, it's easy for a relationship to last long. But it's also easy to hurt each other. Let time untie the knots tied by time. Sick soon, Leonardo. Well, sorry. It was Grandma Fu's birthday. I used many connections to get a calligraphy work by an eminent monk that Grandma Fu likes very much. I had it carefully packaged. At the place of signature, it was written as Mr. and Mrs. Francis Yvonne. No matter what's inside, the dignity between families cannot be lost. Sitting in the office and hesitating for a long time, I made the first call to Francis in a month. It rang until I almost thought it would be hung up by itself. Finally, hadn't fulfilled my sigh. The call was answered. "Francis, I have already prepared a birthday gift for Grandma. Where shall we start and go back together?" Lillian's soft yet arrogant voice came over. "Yvonne, you go back by yourself. Francis said that he will take me back to meet the elders at home." I took the phone away and looked at the screen. I didn't dial the wrong number. It was Francis's number. Let Francis answer the phone. Lillian giggled. "Sorry, Yvonne. We just got up. Francis is making lunch for me." After hanging up the phone, a WeChat message came in. "Sister. Plan A." I looked at it for a long time and told my assistant to help me make an appointment with a stylist. Alone. I also have to attend the banquet. At 6 o'clock in the afternoon, I stepped into the old house of the Fu family on time. The elders were all there and asked me why I came back alone. I perfunctorily answered, but when I turned around and saw Grandma Fu, my eyes turned red. Grandma watched me grow up, watched me marry into the Fu family, and watched me gradually gain a firm foothold in the Fu family. I have lost battles. but I have never shown weakness. She has been in the business field for decades. I know she understands. Not asking is the dignity she leaves for me. I handed the calligraphy work to Grandma with both hands. When she lowered her eyes and saw our names written side by side at the place of signature, she sighed. At this time, there was a commotion at the gate. I turned around and saw Frances holding Lillian's hand and carefully protecting her as they walked in step by step. The expressions on everyone's faces were different. Grandma Fu dark and her face. The two passed through the crowd and walked up to Grandma Fu. Grandma, this is Lillian. I brought her here to congratulate you on your birthday. Grandma Fu didn't even spare a glance at Lillian. She coldly called the housekeeper to see the guest out. Housekeeper Uncle Lee came over and politely but distantly asked Lillian to leave. Lillian had tears in her eyes and looked at Frances. Frances. I'm sorry. I tried my best. But I really can't reach your circle. From now on, you and Devon live a good life. Forget about me. After saying that, she turned around and ran out sobbing. I couldn't help rolling my eyes. This little green tea's acting is getting better and better. But Frances was anxious. He quickly chased after her and held Lillian, whispering to comfort her. Kneel down. Grandma Fu scolded. For a moment, the whole hall was silent. Grandma Fu walked up to Frances with her cane and hit him on the back with one stick. You scoundrel. Frances straightened his spine and knelt down straight lie on both knees. Taking this blow, Grandma Fu was angry. No one dared to speak, but there was someone who had no sense. Watching Grandma Fu's cane fall on Frances's back one after another, Lillian screamed and threw herself on him. She hugged Frances's back and shouted at Grandma Fu with a sob. What's wrong with us pursuing true love? He is your own grandson. The entire Fu family will belong to him in the future. Luck could be more important than him. Grandma Fu snorted coldly. The cane in her hand came down mercilessly. With a dull thud, Lillian was hit solidly by one stick. Frances, who was kneeling straight lie, was anxious. He quickly turned around and protected Lillian in his arms, blurting out, Grandma, Lillian is pregnant. 7 countless inquiring gazes fell on my face. But Frances seemed relieved. He stood up and walked up to me. She. Let's get a divorce. I should be responsible for Lillian. I owe her a legitimate status. My dad snorted coldly. My father-in-law, Chairman Fu, strode over, raising his hand to hit him. Dad, I called out to Chairman Fu. I slowly walked up to Frances and stared into his eyes. Word by word. I said, Frances. Say it again. I said, let's get a divorce. I nodded. Before everyone could react, I raised my hand. Slap. A heavy slap landed on Frances's face. Frances, listen carefully. As long as we get a divorce, all industries under the names of the Fu and Shing families will be immediately decoupled. I looked at my parents. My dad nodded. You can make all decisions regarding the Shing family. I smiled. So, Frances, are you sure you want a divorce? Frances was anxious. The confidence in his eyes instantly collapsed. He looked at my dad. Dad, we can't decouple. Once decoupled, the interests of both families will be damaged. I earn money to let she lead a good life. If my daughter is unhappy, interests are nothing. I asked Frances again. Are you sure you want a divorce? Frances looked at Chairman Fu, then at my dad, and then at me. He hesitated and didn't dare to speak. My dad snorted coldly and came over to hold my hand. Old Fu, I'll take my child home. After saying that, my dad forcefully took me and walked out. Chairman Fu anxiously called us from behind. Dad didn't turn back. When we reached the door, Grandma Fu's voice came from far away. Chairman Sheng, please wait. My descendants are unworthy. I will give she an explanation. The Fu family will never recognize the child in this woman's belly. I will unconditionally give 5 percentage points of my shares to she. Whether she chooses to stay in the Fu family or divorce Frances, it is effective. With a thud, Lillian sat down on the ground. Frances didn't reach out to help her. Following my dad out of the Fu family, Dad hugged me in the back seat. His eyes were red with heartache. I reached out and hugged my dad. Since my mom died, his hair turned white overnight. But from now on, I will accompany him through all these hardships. Dad, don't worry about me. The story will soon reach its grand finale. 8. There was a problem with the project that Lillian snatched. The client refused to see her and demanded that everything be done according to the contract. The project that I personally followed for half a year naturally had a skyge compensation. It was worth it for me to dig Lillian back from abroad at a high price and provide opportunities for her everywhere. She really had some skills with Francis. In order to help her, Francis was busy visiting various uncles and elders every day, trying to ask someone to mediate and get an opportunity to communicate with the client. After going around in a big circle, finally someone revealed to him that the client trusted me from the beginning. Only if I came forward would there be a chance to resolve this matter. When he was in a state of desperation and returned to the office, the signed divorce agreement was placed on his desk. Francis held the divorce agreement and rushed into my office angrily. Yvonne, you are taking advantage of others' difficulties. I looked up at him. President Fu, the compensation for this project will fully occupy the group's cash flow. In business, cutting losses in time. Is there a problem? He stared at me coldly. The disbelief in his eyes was almost overflowing. We have a relationship of more than 20 years. Are you telling me it's just business? I was so angry, but I laughed. President Fu, you have caused a big trouble. And you are talking about relationship with me? Francis's momentum immediately weakened. She. That's not what I meant. You also have shares in the group. If the group's interests are damaged, your interests will also be damaged. Can you come forward and help me? I leaned back in the chair and looked at this man who was once so arrogant. He would actually lower his head for a certain woman. In his expectant eyes, I slowly but firmly shook my head. For me, the shares of Fu's are free. It doesn't matter much if they go up or down a little. President Fu should sign quickly. I'll make way for your white moonlight. 9. The matter couldn't be dragged on any longer and finally reached the board of directors. The board of directors gave Francis an ultimatum. He must resolve this matter properly. Otherwise, accountability will be initiated according to regulations. After the meeting, I followed behind Francis and walked out of the conference room. Lillian was waiting for him at the door of the conference room with red and swollen eyes. As soon as he appeared, she threw herself on him and hugged his waist. Francis, how is it? Did the chairman agree to arrange for Yvonne to come forward and help you solve it? I laughed. Special Assistant Ruan, let me inform you of the board's decision. First, President Fu must solve this matter. Second, if it can't be solved and causes losses to the group, accountability will be initiated according to regulations, and even affect President Fu's decision-making power in the group. Third, as the person involved, Special Assistant Ruan, the group will also hold you accountable. Lillian was stunned. In front of so many directors, she hugged Francis and burst into tears. What should we do? What should we do? Francis? I'm so scared. The directors kept a distance from the two of them. Francis's face was very ugly. He dragged Lillian and walked towards his office. Suddenly, I had the urge to tease. I deliberately shouted loudly, President Fu. President Fu. Be gentle. Special Assistant Ruan is pregnant. What responded to me was the door slamming shut with a loud bang. It was so satisfying. The quarreling sounds coming from Francis's office lasted all day. When I passed by after work, I could still hear the sound of things being thrown inside. Happily made an appointment with a friend to have a meal. When I got home, unexpectedly, Francis was actually waiting for me at home. Not easy. President Fu. After several months, do you still remember which side the door of our home opens? He stood up and took the coat from my hand. His face looked very bad. Literally bad. She. Help me. 10. Francis. Are you sick? He shook his head and sat down on the sofa warily. She. It's all my problem. It has nothing to do with Lillian. The board of directors is pressing too hard. Help me. The little bit of sympathy that had just risen in my heart instantly subsided. Francis. Is it worth it? He didn't speak. For your white moonlight. Are you willing to lose everything you have now? He looked up at me excitedly. Lillian is different from you. She is innocent and kind. She won't calculate for interests in every possible way. I didn't want to waste time with him. I sent him an address on my phone. It was a relatively remote coffee shop. At 8 o'clock tomorrow night, I'll invite you to watch a show. After watching it, you can make your own decision. After saying that, I signaled that he could leave. He looked at me in shock. She. This is also my home. Soon it won't be. After saying that, I turned and went upstairs. At 8 o'clock the next night, when I arrived at the coffee shop, Francis had already arrived. He was sitting in the corner and waved at me. I signaled him not to come out and chose the booth closest to him. I didn't have to wait long. Lillian arrived on time. Yvonne. I'm pregnant and not suitable to stay outside for too long. Just say what you want directly. I took out a check and handed it to her. 50 million. Have an abortion and leave Francis. Impossible. Lillian said excitedly, I love Francis. I won't leave him. Don't use money to defile my feelings for him. I will give birth to the child. The three of us will live a good life. I took a sip of coffee and patiently waited for her to calm down. Miss Ruan. You don't need me to remind you how difficult your situation is now. The mess you caused. Once it's not handled properly, Francis may lose his position as president at any time. When there is too much money, it's just a number. Take this money, have an abortion, and live in another place. What's wrong with being single, rich, and having free time? Such a life? If you stay at Fuse, I won't help you with the project. Wait to go to jail. Lillian was silent. I took out a second check. 2 more million. You have 3 minutes to consider. Lillian didn't disappoint me. This was hospitalized. The examination results shocked everyone. Gastric cancer. Advanced stage. The most calm person was actually Francis. Perhaps he wasn't calm. He was just numb. After Lillian cashed the check and left without saying goodbye, Francis seemed to have his soul emptied. He calmly accepted all examinations and accepted all treatment plans proposed by the doctors. He had no will to live. But he didn't seek death either. The same was true for me. Every day when I opened my eyes, I told myself that at the last link of the plan, I had to hold on. Francis fell. Lillian left. I had to clean up the mess they made. The 2 huge groups were supported by me alone. I regretted countless times in front of Francis. He had always had stomach problems. We all thought it was caused by irregular diet. He said that the stomach pain had become more and more frequent recently. But Lillian's project made him extremely busy. He always thought about going for an examination after things calmed down. Finally, hadn't fulfilled my anxiety. It was too late. No matter how busy I was with work, I would take a little time every day to accompany him in the hospital. Although most of the time we were relatively silent. After going through the initial torment, Francis's mental state recovered a little. Occasionally, hadn't fulfilled my anxiety. He was also willing to talk to me. Running back and forth between the 2 groups and the hospital every day, I was also about to reach my limit. After attending the board meeting of FUS again and experiencing a round of intense discussions about reappointing the president at the board meeting, I was exhausted physically and mentally. When I came to the hospital at night, Francis was taking a nap. I fell asleep on the side of his hospital bed. When I woke up, it was already 3 o'clock in the morning. There was a small night light on in the ward. Francis was leaning against the head of the bed and quietly looking at me. I sat up with a start. Is there something uncomfortable? He shook his head, stretched out his hand, stopped in my drawer, and then retracted it. Were you tired from arguing at the board meeting today? I knew I couldn't hide it from him. Yes. The directors want to change the president. I argued with them a few words. He smiled and patted my head. Their candidate is you. That's good. I agree. I shook my head. You should quickly recover and come back to shoulder this burden yourself. The Shang family is already tiring enough for me. He was silent for a long time. Slowly, he reached out and held my hand. She. I'm sorry. I may not be able to hold on anymore. I didn't expect that in the end. It's you who is with me. I will pave the way for you. Don't be afraid. 12 When I was busy. Time always passed very quickly. When I finally cleaned up the mess caused by Lillian and pacified the directors. More than a month had passed. After this battle, my prestige in the company was unprecedentedly high. The calls for appointing me as the new president were getting louder and louder. But Francis's health was getting worse and worse. On this day, having fulfilled Lion Session, the Secretariat suddenly notified that the chairman would hold an inter-on-board meeting. When I arrived at the conference room, I was surprised to see Francis sitting in the conference room too. He was sitting in a wheelchair. His face was sallow. When he saw me, he still showed a smile. She. I quickly walked over. Why did you come out? He held my hand and showed me a reassuring smile. I came to deal with some matters. After everyone was seated, Chairman Fu walked in with a man who looked 3 points similar to Francis. I looked at Francis in confusion. He smiled and told me, my cousin. I knew Francis had a distant cousin. When I was kidnapped, he seemed to be a guest at Francis's house. Not long after I was kidnapped, his whole family immigrated. I never saw them again. I was a bit strange. Why did he suddenly come back? Francis smiled and didn't speak. I looked up and looked at his cousin. He was also looking at me with curved eyes. After almost 20 years, he finally came back. At this time, Chairman Fu cleared his throat and said, there are 3 things to announce to everyone at today's interim board meeting. First, this is my distant nephew Sean. He graduated from Harvard and returned to China after his studies. I propose that he serve as the vice president of the group. Second, due to physical discomfort, President Francis officially resigns as president. I turned to look at Francis in shock. He was very calm. I understood that this was the result of his discussion with Chairman Fu. Chairman Fu smiled. The third thing. Let Francis tell everyone. The eyes of all the directors fell on Francis. He was still holding my hand. With the other hand, he took the document handed to him by the lawyer behind him. This is the donation agreement I signed. I voluntarily donate 20 of the shares of Fu's under my name to Ivana unconditionally. The agreement has been notarized and has taken effect. There was an uproar in the conference room. I looked at Francis in shock. For a moment, I couldn't even speak. Chairman Fu smiled and said, from today on, Yvonne is the person who holds the most shares in the group. I propose that the shareholders vote to elect a new chairman. Undoubtedly, it was unanimously passed. I became the new chairman of Fu's. After the meeting, Sean knocked on the door of my office. I'm back. I reached out my hand to him. Happy cooperation. 13 Francis's health was getting worse and worse. The time he was awake was getting less and less. Every time he woke up, he would look for me. I simply handed over all the work in my hands to Sean and concentrated on taking care of him in the hospital. Perhaps because his time was running out, he began to like reminiscing. He recalled the past events over and over again. I patiently accompanied him and told those past events again and again. One day, the sun was just right. I pushed him to the small garden to bask in the sun. He looked up at the warm sunlight falling on the ground and suddenly said to me, Look, this sunlight. Isn't it just like the day when you were rescued? I smiled. After waiting for so long, I finally got it. Yes. On that day, when I learned the news of my mother's death, I cried and lay on Sean's back. When I walked out of that dark and abandoned factory, the sunlight I saw at first glance was exactly the same as today. Later, you insisted on taking me from Sean's back. You walked unsteadily and almost fell several times. Thanks to Sean protecting me from behind, I didn't fall to the ground. I remember that Sean seemed to ask you why you leaked my words and caused me to be kidnapped and my mother to die of a heart attack. I also remember that he asked why. Even though he found me first and he was taller and stronger than you still insisted on carrying me out so laboriously. You said that the Sheng family is too huge. Only in this way can you have a chance. You want the Sheng family to always remember that it was you who saved me. The Sheng family will always owe you a favor. You also said that when you grow up, you will marry me. By then, both the Fu family and the Sheng family will be yours. I put my hands in my coat pockets and looked down at him. Francis, think about it. Did I remember anything wrong? Francis lowered his head. His body was visibly stiffening. Beads of sweat the size of peas emerged from his forehead and jerked down along his temples. I took out a tissue and wiped his sweat for him. I asked him concernedly, "Why are you sweating so much all of a sudden? Did I say something wrong?" He raised his head. His originally sallow face turned pale. He stared at me tightly. "You were only 5 years old. Since you woke up, why did you pretend to be in a coma? Since you already knew my plan, why did you still agree to marry me?" I squatted in front of him and looked at him at eye level. "Because. Since I was sensible. The first lesson my dad taught me was not to expose all my cards to others. Not even the closest people. As for why I married you, it's very simple. You want the assets of my Shing family. I also want the Fu family to avenge my mother. You see. Didn't I get it?" Francis was very emotional. He couldn't stand up anymore. But the veins on his hands gripping the armrest of the wheelchair bulged. "Yvonne. You. What a venomous woman." I took a step back to avoid the saliva he spat out excitedly. "Francis. Who can you blame? Blame your own love-struck mind. You still don't know, right? Lillian was found by me. She is really an excellent actress. Every time I act with her, I feel that even my acting skills have improved a lot. I can pursue a career in the entertainment industry. If you were wholeheartedly focused on your career and firmly held Fu's in your hands, at most I would be a vice president. A small mistake can lead to a total failure. Who can you blame?" Francis's hands were trembling violently. His eyes rolled upward. He was about to faint from anger at any moment. "Don't worry. There's still one more thing I haven't told you." I took out a physical examination report from my bag and handed it to him. Before Lillian came back, the group organized a collective physical examination for executives. I picked up your physical examination report, but I was in a hurry to go to the United States to find Lillian. So I forgot to give it to you. Francis stared blankly at the words, "suspected gastric cancer. Recommendatory examination," in bold on the report. His lips trembled for a long time. Eventually, having fulfilled biopsy, his eyes rolled back and he completely fainted. 14 Due to emotional excitement causing intracranial vascular rupture. Francis never woke up again. He didn't die either. He was kept alive in an expensive nursing home. I repeatedly told them to use the best medicine. Every day he lives is the best comfort for me in this world. After repeatedly confirming with the doctor that the probability of him regaining consciousness was almost zero, I bought a plane ticket and flew directly to the United States. Lillian picked me up at the airport. She drove me westward along the coastline and finally arrived at the manor she had bought herself. She followed behind me and introduced her manor as we walked. In the end lounge, there was a tall and handsome foreign young man, wearing a proper servant uniform, waiting for her. I asked her if she hated me. After all, Francis really treated her with his heart. Lillian shook her head with a smile. "Sister, I will always be grateful to you for helping me." Francis's love is to suffocating. He broke my wings and wanted to confine me by his side. But I came to this world not to be just his canary. I also want to see the vast sea of stars. I desperately escaped from him and hid in the United States. For so many years, I didn't dare to live with my real identity. You gave me the possibility of a new life. Lillian smiled and raised her glass to me. "To you. To me. To freedom." 15 When the plane landed back in China, the person picking me up was Sham. He personally drove me home. On the way, he reported on the operation of Fu's intermittently. Due to jet lag, I was a bit sleepy. After struggling for a while, I simply adjusted the seat and slept. This sleep was very deep. When I woke up slowly, I found that it was already dark. The car was parked at the door of the villa. There was a thin blanket covering me. Sean was standing outside the car smoking. I pushed the door and got out. I took the suitcase, unlocked the door, and entered. Sean stood at the door. After hesitating for a while, he asked me, she, "Can I come in?" I shook my head. "President Fu, it's very late. Please go back." I casually wanted to close the door. Sean held the door with one hand and said hurriedly, she. Back then, The Fu family was afraid that I would leak the secret that I saved you and forced our whole family to immigrate. Our family was living in poverty abroad. If Chairman Shang hadn't sent someone to find us, our whole family might have died in a foreign land. I studied desperately and was admitted to Harvard. My only belief was to come back and have enough ability to be by your side. Can you give me this chance? I stood up straight and looked directly into Sean's eyes. I slowly but firmly shook my head. My life goal is to have money, have a career, and be myself. There is no option of love in my life plan. May you also realize your wish. But if your wish goes against my goal, I choose to love myself. Sean took 2 steps back and looked at me quietly for a long time. His eyes were calm and tolerant. Sighing, he turned and left, watching his tail lights pass the corner. I took a deep breath. From then on the long road of life, there will eventually be blooming flowers everywhere. Love yourself. Other things don't matter.